Aminion started in 2002. Um, I was hanging out with Jimmy Belford, who I had been in a band with uh, the year before called Adrift, and that band um, wasn't exactly what I was wanting to do. Looking back, I mean, I had a pretty good time in that band, and I do miss it, but I was wanting to do more guitar solos and be a little bit more technical, and that's not what they were into. Young and arrogant, and um, so I told Jimmy I was wanting to, start a band, and he was in the band Zayas at the time. And long story short, I ended up staying with him briefly in DeQuoin, Illinois. And since we were staying together, him on drums and me on guitar, we got to jam all the time. And we ended up picking up a couple of college guys on guitar and bass, and we ended up getting a guy by the name of Thomas Kern on vocals, better known as Psy. Um, and we had that lineup for a little bit. We ended up letting the two guys go because they didn't seem to be as dedicated to as what we wanted. And when it was just me and Jimmy and Psy, I had a Tascam 4-track, and we started recording demos. And we practiced at Jimmy's for a while, then we switched to Psy's house, and I had a Roland electronic drum kit that Jimmy took over there because Psy had a family, and we practiced this little room. And we did these demos, and we did one show, the three of us. We didn't have a bass player on February 14th, Valentine's Day of 2003. And shortly after that, Psy ended up quitting the band. We kind of got into it with him at practice, and I don't know, things weren't just working out like they should. Anyway, so he quit, and it was just me and Jimmy. Me and Jimmy continued as a two-piece for a while because we never could find a bass player. And our music kept getting progressively more technical. And what I would do is I bought a small bass amp, like a 4x10 cabinet. It was a Gallon Kruger head that ended up getting stole at in a Minion show a year or two later. Anyway, and I'd run my guitar into a splitter box, and I'd play, guitar. One line from the splitter box go to my distorted guitar, my guitar cab, and the other would go to the bass, which, half-ass worked. It was like a poor man's version of trying to pull off that local H thing like that guy does. And me and Jimmy ended up recording a 4-demo EP with Scott Dodera from DNS Music. We entitled it the How to Baptize a Whore EP, which later on our website would be howtobaptizeahore.com. And it wasn't too long after we did that we got Jeff Carter in the band, who would end up being the guitar player later, but he was the bass player at this point, and I was on guitar and vocals. And Aminion kind of took off, started taking off some with us three. All our music had these really, weird song titles like Vomit on the Floor, Nazi Flags Everywhere, the Post-Mortem Inspection, Cannibalistic Pedophile. The songs on the How to Baptize a Whore EP we did was Malicious Statutory Intent, Aura of Death, Homicidal Masturbation, and Without Any Question, which was an 1134 cover. 1134 is a band that me and John Belford, Jimmy's brother, had whenever I was in high school. We were like more of a horror rock band, kind of straightforward. We did a lot of Black Sabbath and Misfits covers, and we kind of sound like this garagey Metallica, Pantera, just typical 90s metal and rock, garage band version of that shit. And due to the How to Baptize a Whore website, there were these teenage girls that went to here in Illinois high school. We kind of named them the Road Whores, and they tried to make it to all of our shows and all that. And one of them, her mom would let me pick her up for shows till we saw her website, and I'd start getting real big into the interested in stuff in the occult and all this, and I was posting all kinds of satanic and occult shit on her website. And her mom actually told me she'd been to prison and didn't care to go back. I mean, basically, she made a death threat to me because of our website, and somebody can't believe I let my daughter, hang out with you and all this shit. So anyway, we played for a while with Jeff Carter on bass, and me guitar vocals, Jimmy on drums. We started to record a new full length called The Science and Ethics of Human Extinction. I got that title from some book I saw in the library at college, and I also wrote a song in Adrift that I recorded with them on our self-titled EP, just called Adrift. There's a song on there called that. And we ended up getting a call from, or contacted somehow from one of the local radio stations, because they'd have bands come in locally and do an acoustic set of music, and we had this Halloween show coming up we were trying to promote, and we were calling it Hell Night, and I was calling it that after the hidden track on Misfits' American Psycho album, which was taken from, that title was taken from an old horror movie. Well, our stuff was too berserk to do acoustically, so I said, well, come DJ for now, we'll let you play what you want. So all of us in Aminion, and our buddy Joe McMillan, who was drummer for the band Like No Other, came with us. Our buddy Mark Elston, who we called Speed Wolf, Jason McDonald, the original singer from 1134. I can't remember who all was there, but we went, and some of us had corpse paint on, like McDonald had he did the whole thing that Old Man's Child was doing at that time, just painting his face white and had blood all over him. Anyway, we got in there and we started playing stuff like Dark Funeral and Slayer and Old Cradle of Filth and Demu Borgir and the Misfits, and then we played Cephalic Carnage. We played all kinds of stuff, because at that time we were more like a death and like a grindcore kind of band, because all I cared about was being technical, which is I'm not like that at all now, but back then that's all I wanted. And we ended up having Hell Night at this place called Boo Juniors, and this place is a total shithole. Anybody could play there. You could book a show there. It was the only thing open in Carbondale, Illinois. Well, it wasn't the only thing open, but all the bars on the Strip, due to previous Halloween riots, were always shutting down at that point on Halloween night. So we packed the place and brought I remember we made like $400 at the door, which don't sound like much, but for there, that's like phenomenal. And we rented an enormous amount of PA from Scott at DNS Music. I mean, it was way overkill for this place. And when Aminion went on, we had Jason McDonald run the sound. He didn't know what he was doing, so we just took all the faders on the board and cranked them up, so it was just absolutely deafening in there in this place. And I remember everything was going smooth for the most part, but some people from bands couldn't get there. The band order got all mixed up. And anyway, there ended up being a bunch of fights. And I'm pretty sure it was a guy busted a beer bottle over some girl's head. And, Mark Speedwolf, he had to put some girl in a full Nelson to try and get him out of a fight. And she was a pretty big girl. I mean, we were having to hold people back and all kind of little stuff. And I was running around trying to see what was going on, take care of shit that was going on at the show. There was fights in the parking lot. I mean, it turned into literally Hell Night. And not too long after that, me and Jeff Carter were really big into black metal. And at the same time, or around that time, we picked up this guy, Will McClanahan, to be another guitar player. And we only ended up playing one show with him before we booted him. And he was wanting to do this band called Endless Suffering, and so we'd alternate. Like one day would be Minion practice, the next would be Endless Suffering, and I wasn't too happy with that. It just didn't work out. Things clashed, so we asked him to leave, and he's a killer guitar player too. It just things didn't work out. We really wanted to change our style to black metal, so we quit playing shows and just started all over. Just kept the name, and just really focused on doing these black metal songs. At first, I was still kind of bitching, man, they're not quite as technical. And I realized, you know what? Technicality is one thing, and it's impressive and it's great, but sometimes it, it's got to take a back seat to other stuff. And we started doing black metal. Dark Funeral was a major influence. Old Cradle of Filth, if you want to call that black metal. I mean, nowadays, I don't know. I'm not going to get all technical about it. Um, basically it's all of it. I was listening to all the main ones you hear about. And we really and anything else I could find that anytime I found a black metal album at a CD store, because there's one not too far from here that carried all the stuff. Me and Jason McDonald like bought them out and they never restocked it, and or I'd order it on Amazon or whatever. I was just hungry eating up this shit, and we ended up getting a guy, Derek Martin, in the band to play bass so that Jeff Carter could be guitar and vocals. So now we had 2 lead guitar players and 2 vocalists. And we got Derek in the band, and he worked out great, but he ended up getting a job offer and having to go to Texas. So we only played one last-minute show with him just to say that we played a show with him. So it sucked because nobody was there, really. And I can't remember, if it was before he left or if he made one of his several trips back that we recorded our CD, The Embodiment of Blasphemy, which, by the way, the Science and Ethics of Human Extinction CD, we scrapped it. We didn't even make it through the drum tracking. But we ended up recording The Embodiment of Blasphemy, and it had the keyboard intro, The Searing Winds of Unholy War, Blood of Lamay, or Blood of the Lamb in Norwegian. That's what it's supposed to mean. I hope those translators were right. Flesh Eternal and Battle of the Undead. And right after that, somewhere in that time, Derek left, and I don't remember if he mixed the CD and sent it to us or if he mixed it and finished there. But that was in 2004. I know that it was the day after Christmas in 2004, I think it was. In fact, I'm 99% positive it was. I went to DNS Music in Heron, and there were 2 teenagers standing outside the store. And I called Scott and told him, hey, you got people who are wanting to spend money. He came and unlocked the door. And one of them was Jeff Newman, who wanted to try out after we talked about music stuff, and I told him about Aminion. He wanted to come try out for keyboards. Well, we needed a bass player because Derek was gone, and he tried out for bass, and he's who we kept, and he was, for 17 years old, it was pretty damn impressive. And I don't remember when we got signed to Brother in War Records, if it was before Derek left or not. It was right before, right after. I just know that Derek had that standalone recorder. We recorded The Embodiment of Blasphemy on a standalone recorder in Jimmy's trailer where he lived and where we practiced. Anyway, he put the recordings up on, I'm pretty sure it was the forum on the Demubor Gear website, and we ended up getting discovered by Leo Clark out of St. Louis, who had this small indie label, Brethren of War Records, and he called me up and we talked about it, and he was in the guitar player for the band Harkonnen, and Brethren of War had a couple other bands, and that opened us up to getting to play outside of our area. And I remember whenever the CD, the first design for the CD layout, we saw it. It was some ghostly girl on a graveyard, and like, man, this ain't really what we're about, And the CD was gonna be called The Embodiment of Blasphemy, and so he's like, okay, I got another idea, and we told him, do whatever you got to do. So nothing's going to be too much for us, and we ended up getting an album cover back that was pretty brutal. It's a girl. He had some girl do this photo shoot, um, and she was like, naked and wearing spikes and corpse paint stuff, and she was shoving a crucifix up her, what. Which I later on got to see that crucifix, and the part that was going in her was very sharply pointed. And anyway, from then on, we were playing around. We played a lot in Missouri. There's a better metal scene over there than around here in Southern Illinois, and we played with the band Emaciation a lot, and with the band Harkonnen a lot. Harkonnen, of course, because the guitar player ran the record label we were on. Emaciation were just really good pals, and still keep up with them. They're really awesome guys. And in fact, Jimmy ended up going and filling in with them whenever they didn't have a drummer. Um, where do we go from here? We ended up playing shows a lot. Ended up going to Columbia, Missouri one time. And the promoter told us there might not be anyone there because it was like a Monday or Wednesday night or something, and there wasn't hardly anybody there. Newman's 17 and traveling with his stuff. Me and him ended up getting wasted before we went on, and we were playing with a band called Three-Headed Moses. I don't remember the name of the venue. And I ended up smashed him in the head with my guitar on accident. I'd stole the Bible from the hotel we were staying at and ended up setting it on fire and throwing it out in the crowd. And it was pretty wild stuff. And we had a guy, one of our friends, he'd travel with us, and he'd be bringing liquor in my van, and he'd be getting wasted on the way up. One time he was trying to eat tuna. He hadn't ate today, and he ended up trying to drain the juice out of the window of my van while we're going down the highway. Best story about that guy was one night after a show at Boo Junior's where we had Hell Night. He ended up getting this guy ended up getting really trashed. Newman ended up like leaving and going to Denny's or something with his family while some of the other bands played. We thought he just ditched us for the night, so this other friend of ours was kind enough to pack pack some of the gear up in his car. Because I think Newman had helped bring some in his truck, or so I don't remember why but anyway, Newman came back, and our friend was like, "Screw it, I've already got it packed up. I'll take it." He left a little bit before us, and between there, it's a little bit of a drive between Carbondale and DeQuoin, where we practiced at Jimmy's, and there's this town called Elkville through there, and the speed limit's 25. And when we went through there, we saw our buddy pulled over. So me and the promoter were riding together, and we unload the stuff at Jimmy's. And I can't remember how we got our gear, because they ended up impounding the car, or if we stopped and got it. I don't remember. We got the gear somehow. Anyway, we saw him pulled over. I come back, talk to the cops. After we go and unload stuff, the cops were still hanging out there. And they said, yeah, he got a DUI. He was going 95 through here. It was 90 or 95 through there in Elkville. And I guess he was real mouthy and telling the cops that he didn't care if he was handcuffed. He could still take their gun away and shoot him and all kinds of crazy shit. I ended up going and bailing him out of jail. And on the way out, he was, flipping off the cameras and shit around the jailhouse. And I came back to his apartment, and the car had been impounded with his keys, so he ended up elbowing out his bedroom window. Well, actually, it was just the window because it was a studio apartment, but he elbowed it out without looking, just leaped back onto his bed that was by the window, onto a bed of broken glass. And he was always a trip to be around, but he was a cool guy, and he supported us a lot. And I don't know where, I haven't seen him in a long time. I don't know whatever happened to him. And throughout all this Aminion stuff, we ended up running into a guy named Chris Hupp, better known as Metal Chris. And this guy is the ultimate metal fanatic. And he was awesome because he'd drive from, I'm pretty sure it was Springfield, Illinois to St. Louis and stuff to come to shows we were playing at. And he just supported all kinds of metal bands. I mean, us, Emaciation, we played with, Harkonnen. I mean, he's awesome dude. Um, and anyway, Aminion, Derek ended up coming back for like some kind of visit home and brought his standalone recorder and recording gear, and we recorded what was going to be a follow up to the Embodiment of Blasphemy. Well, um, we get it done, and we recorded the songs. Um, I Deny Thee, Trinity Befallen, Blasphemy in the Garden of Creation, and From Grace Thee Hath Fallen. And we had a lot of stuff. I wish I would have kept the 4-track around more, and we would have recorded practices and stuff. I really, because we had a lot of songs. Uh, and Anyway, we recorded this, and Lale from Brethren of War Records, want to respect his privacy, but he got himself in a bit of a mess and ended up disappearing. And he owed us some money, and I think he owed some other bands money. But I knew of one situation he got himself in, and it turns out he got himself. I was at a Dark Funeral show a couple of years ago, and I ran into the singer from Harkonnen, and Jason, and he told me about some other stuff Lale got into. So we got this EP. Lale, some of this trouble involved two people that were willing to sign us to their record labels. They were thinking about that. One of them was this one chick. She was going to start it, but Lale caused a bunch of shit and ruined it for us. She didn't have anything against us, but there was a bad relationship between her and him. And then Metal Chris Hupp was had thought about starting his own indie label, Metal Holocaust Records. Well, about that time, Newman ended up quitting, and I tried, playing bass. I said, "Well, I'll play bass then. Maybe we can find another guitar player." Because finding another bass player Minion had the worst time with it, and it just didn't really sound right. And next thing you know, Jimmy and Jeff started a cover band, which is cool. That's fine. I mean, it wouldn't have affected Aminion in any way. But they were doing that, and the phone calls about Aminion just kept getting less and less. And I can't remember if we actually decided to call it a day or it just kind of fizzled out. But I remember toward the end, I was thinking about maybe wanting to do something more. Still dark, but maybe a little bit more progressive sounding. I don't really remember. Like I said, I just don't remember how it ended up. I remember that nobody quit. I think that it just kind of fizzled out. I don't think there was ever an official talk or anything, from what I remember. But anyway, that's kind of a history of Aminion. The Embodiment of Blasphemy Anniversary Edition will be available worldwide digitally on March 2nd of 2015. That's going to be on iTunes, Amazon. And the Anniversary Edition has the original EP, the 4 songs we've recorded for the follow-up EP, and several live tracks recorded at Pops in Sauget, Illinois, and a few at one of the metal fests that the band Smear used to put on in the Coin. The last 2 tracks are from that. So hope you enjoyed it, and that's my version of what went down.